Kuah tiedä, missä da juurti eellima agalas aatsagi. Lihka visu tahpahuva vissis logujelegi ja alle una logujelegi riftimente.
¿Cuántas veces más recordarás cierta tarde de su infancia? Algunas tardes es tan profundamente parte de su ser. Ni siquiera puede concebir tu vida sin ellas.
Ai sahti kovvir heellima da haga. Soita nieli, vihti, i dange soita.
¿Cuántas veces más verás salir como la luna llena?
Soita koktelogi. Ja tadihte. Visuhoru lehkimo. Keitsi haga.
Well, global temperatures are on track to break another record this year.
Climate change changes everything. We are in for dramatic physical change.
Now, the latest data provides strong insights regarding long-term climate change.
The majority of the human race does not see global warming as a serious threat.
From the Industrial Revolution up until now,
mankind has introduced to the Earth a completely new type of environment.
We can reinvent a different future.
Okay, ready? I'm going, people. I definitely suffer from climate anxiety, and I know that so many people my age do too. And it's overwhelming sometimes, but I really just wonder if, we're doing enough.
Climate anxiety is largely based around a fear of the future owed to the physical and social manifestations of the climate crisis. And it is a very uniquely personal experience. And to me, largely climate anxiety is something that bleeds into other aspects of my mental health. Not only from living in a climate crisis, but also thinking about the past and the present and how they overlap. A lot of it is based on my environmental experiences growing up, being neurodivergent, being queer, being someone who's, perceived as a woman. All of these different things bleed into one another to create a very unique experience for me, which is largely about how we're going to move through the future in this climate crisis. I was affected by climate anxiety pretty early on. The irony is that climate anxiety largely focuses on the future, but for me this is something that happened at quite a young age. I grew up in a fishing town in Hong Kong, and it's not lost on many of us to experience typhoon after typhoon, which is the kind of eastern equivalent of a hurricane. And I remember days where I wouldn't be able to leave my house because the roads would turn into rivers, and fishing boats would be washed up on the shore, and it would look like you're in a post-apocalyptic movie scene. I used to be so anxious about this because I learned pretty early on that these physical aspects of the climate crisis were very intertwined with the way that we were consuming, whether it's burning of fossil fuels, industrial agriculture, plastic consumption, all of it's interconnected. And so from a young age, I connected the dots. It can be quite a bewildering experience to think that you're anxious about the future, but now the future is happening. And I'm still feeling these same emotions as I was when I was a child.
I did experience climate anxiety. I guess the first time I started thinking about it was when I realized that in Cuba, we're French in Cuba, and in Cuba there was more and more cyclones, and people started saying that the level of the sea would come up, and our house in Cuba is in front of the sea, so the possibility of losing your home came through, and I was like, wow, this is real.
And seeing a lot of fires everywhere, and even the weather, there's no more seasons. One day it can rain, even snow, and the other day, it's, the sun is out.
They're small and we could do a lot better, and we're trying to do a lot better. But for example, I buy a lot of secondhand stuff. I almost never buy, new things. We plant gardens and try to plant plants that attract bees. We try to eat seasonally and locally. So now I actually pay attention when I'm buying, for example, I don't know, kale. Where does the kale come from? Or tomatoes. Try to, as much as I can, to buy in markets and to support local businesses.
And try to learn more about it also, like educate ourselves to it. Because, it's our generations who's gonna, have a big impact and the one coming after us. So, the change should come with us.
Climate change has affected the lives of so many people in my country, Uganda. As the global temperatures continue to rise, we've seen the changes in weather patterns, and we've experienced extreme rainfall and extreme dry spells. A lack of rain means hunger for so many people as crops dry out. But also too much rain means destruction of farms, destruction of schools, people's hospitals, people's livelihoods, and people's businesses. So a country like Uganda that has already experienced flooding and landslides in the eastern part of the country and the western part of the country, it's evident that the climate crisis is devastating so many people. I remember in school learning about climate change, but it wasn't an experience of the reality that was already happening on the ground. And when I saw these impacts, when I saw the floods, when I saw the landslides that had already happened in my country, I decided I had to do something about it. I decided I had to become a voice and join the different young people across the world who were striking for the climate. In 2019, a few weeks into my activism, I started feeling very frustrated because the climate disasters continued to happen across the world, and also the leaders continued to remain silent about the climate crisis. So it became very frustrating for me in that I couldn't have the strength to strike anymore. And at that point, I felt like I was doing this by myself. But one of the things that really helped me to get out of that situation was understanding that I am not alone in the movement, and that there are millions of young people across the world who are striking for the climate, who are advocating for a better future, a more sustainable future for all of us. So I decided to believe that I am not alone, and when I need to rest, I can rest knowing that someone else out there is advocating for a better future. And if that person needs to rest, they will know that I am somewhere speaking out.
Right now, as I fly all over the world and I play in multiple countries every single week, I cannot help but living with a little bit of guilt hanging over my shoulders. I think that as our generation engaged in conversation with each other a lot more, we learn to be conscious. We really learn the consequences of our actions. Previous generations of musicians could just enjoy being on tour, but I genuinely believe now the planet is in absolute dire need of our help and our education. And I'm not saying to be completely perfect. I'm not saying everybody needs to go completely to stop everything they're doing right now. But I think what was so interesting to me, talking to other artists and talking to my team, it's about how we can make small differences within ourselves. With my touring crew, I've asked to implement little bits of changes within our schedule and within our travel. Like, for example, say like if we're gonna fly, every single flight of ours needs to be offset. If we're gonna eat every day in catering, let's not eat meat 3 times a day. All my clothing at the minute, I wear repurposed clothes. I want to wear these boots of Vivienne Westwood, repurposed, recycled, vintage. So all the time I'm not buying new fast fashion clothes. It's about implementing things in your life that can make a big difference overall. It's so easy to express anger on other people when that doesn't change anything. What changes people is having a conversation and educating and implementing an idea. Genuinely, I think the only way we achieve a better place and a better world is by working as a team. If you fight negativity with negativity, you only get more negativity. It's better that 100 million people implement a small idea than 10 million people implementing a massive idea.
Whenever I'm like reading like the news about like, I don't know, we're chopping up the Amazon or like the forest, and like, I don't know, I see like pictures of like, I don't know, polar bears on a little ice flake all by itself. Whenever I read these things, I just feel like I never hear about like the people that are in these places. Like we don't hear about the people that are actually living in the Amazon forest or the tribes, or like we don't hear about the Sami people in like the super far up in Norway. They base their lives around predictable seasons, and now with climate change, like our season, like the seasons are like less predictable. It's messing up with like when the reindeers are coming for them to like trap them and like chop them up and make shoes. You know what I mean? Like the indigenous people have always been suppressed, and I just feel like we don't talk about them, and we don't talk about their knowledge, or we don't talk about like their well-being and all of the bad news that we are getting every single day. I feel like I'm like the wrong person to even talk about it, because I'm like, okay, what is your struggle? Like what are you facing? Like we're so uninterested in indigenous knowledge that we don't even know like what they're facing, and that's, I don't know, maybe that's something that's I think I feel upset by that. I feel upset by not caring. I feel like I'm just being confronted by my own kind of like recklessness of just how I'm also kind of a part of a problem in a way. I just think, honestly, I just feel like all Western civilizations should just reevaluate their own knowledge about everything, because we're so like, this is the right way of living. I think the indigenous people have a lot more respect for nature, and I just feel like we don't have respect for nature at all. And it's like, yeah, we're gonna do this and that by 2025, or this is by 20. Like, I don't give a like. What are y'all are a bunch of people sitting like in a bunch of suits, and y'all like never fucking put your finger in the dirt. You know what I mean? They don't give a shit. The people that are supposed to make changes, they don't give a shit. And I just feel like we should bring people that actually care about nature and thinks nature is beautiful. Indigenous people want to preserve nature. They respect nature. We don't respect nature. I'm flying all around the world touring. Like, that doesn't feel like, I'm leaving a huge footprint too, but I am doing this thing that's called carbon positive thing, but it's still like, I don't know, we should just fucking do more. This is hopeless, That's just, the further down I go in that rabbit hole, it's like, this shit is hopeless, but that's probably not the narrative you guys want to put on this film. We're all doomed. Fuck it. Don't have any more kids. They won't make it.
$7 billion people don't know we face mass extinction from climate change. This is because of the corporate media. It's their fault. They only ever mention climate change as a separate issue, whereas everything is connected to it. It's what they don't say that matters. What they do say is not the complete picture. It's just part rubbish. it doesn't have all the facts. Capitalism and climate change are two snakes that eat each other's tail, accelerating the economy down. We're on a permanent dive. The one is eating the other, getting worse and worse. In fact, it is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: war, famine, fire and flood, poverty. Halt climate change is our priority. It's what we should be doing.
I was brought up in England by Ghanaian parents. My parents taught me that clothes were identity, precious, not at all frivolous. The pride and respect for clothing translated into me wanting to be a fashion designer. And as I was about to finish my first collection, a fire burnt my flat. My possessions and my collection left with nothing. It dawned on me once the ash settled. I realized my dream wasn't to be part of the fashion industry. I wanted to change it. Try and fix an industry that contributes to 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions. My job now is to find sustainable design solutions, to challenge the archaic industry practices that harm our fragile planet. Changing the respect we have for clothes, knowing their origins, their construction, the processes each item has gone through, can help us make choices that can help stop the demand for these items. And in turn, the negative effect that we have on our planet. We don't connect our clothes with fields, farms or forests, but that's where our cottons, leathers and viscose comes from. Even our synthetics like polyester are made from non-renewable resources like oil. All the processes to make our clothes, extracting fibers, making materials, cutting, sewing, trimming them, shipping them, down to us wearing them, all impacts climate, and this impacts people. In the Western global North, discussing the overconsumption and underutilization of clothes seems unimportant, but it presents a different reality to the global South majority, and parts of the world often most exposed to the harsh impacts of climate change, including in some of the very countries where our clothes are made. Re-wearing, buying vintage, washing our clothes on a cooler temperature, and recognizing our privilege and experience, we can all have impact. We all belong in this conversation and have already been in it.
We try to kind of evolve with the times and sort of like move on and try and move a little bit ahead of like where we could be. So we're always sort of like pushing forward and trying to like pioneer new like big changes. So in 2019, we banned plastic bottles on site. Now previously, like we'd got through like 1.6 million plastic bottles during a weekend, so it's a lot. And it was a bit of a challenge. We had to get like all of the drinks companies on board. There was a lot of resistance, but we got there. And it was like the most remarkable thing, because we said to the people, please bring a reusable. Don't bring plastic unless you're willing to reuse it all you can. And use all our water refill points across site. You honestly couldn't find a plastic bottle. It was incredible. And when I was like wandering, I was like you could find me like looking through bins, looking for plastic bottles, but there was nothing. Everybody listened, and that's the thing, like when you ask people to come on board with an idea, and especially an environmental massive change like this, you know, people are up for it. People really want to help. Sometimes you can feel like there's a sort of suspicion between like governments and the public, or like what's the agenda here, you know, but like when we're like, look, we build a city, like this is Oxford. If you see this as Oxford, then you understand it's like a big challenge banning plastic. but it's like you can do it. Like the public can do it. You have to give people the opportunity to show that they want to do it, and they were all on board. So I'm like, if we can do it, London can do it. Like, you know, it's no different. I'm often thinking about like things that we do at home, you know, like I have 3 children, so I spend a lot of time speaking to my kids about the planet and our responsibility. And I think what's really important is that we don't lose hope, that we don't feel despair, that we feel that change is possible, that we are part of a transition. We're moving in this direction of like, you know, kids are getting hold of this. They're grasping it in a way which we weren't taught when we were kids.
I started eating a plant-based diet when I was actually a teenager and had wanted to since I was a child. I didn't ever want to eat animals. It was really clear to me that that was not something I wanted to eat. So in Western Colorado, I stopped eating them when I was a teenager. But then when I moved to New York City at 21 years old, I first saw an infographic that explained about the connection between animal agriculture and the destruction of the Amazon rainforest. That was a real aha moment for me. So I saw this infographic, X amount of Amazon rainforest destroyed for 1 hamburger. Now I was already a vegetarian at that point, but that was very eye-opening to me, and so I became really aware of the environmental impact of animal agriculture. And then I moved to a strictly plant-based diet, basically because of my concern for the environment and for animals, and also for my own personal health. The way I was eating was already very impactful for that, but going strictly vegan was much more impactful for my health and much better for the planet. Food justice. Well, nourishing food is a human right, and yet we have created systems in our country and in the world which deprive people of access to nourishing food. Literally lack of access either in proximity or affordability. So trying to even that system out to provide nourishing food availability to everyone. Animal agriculture is not only devastating to the environment because of the large production of methane gas, the huge amount of land and water use, but also animal agriculture is often located or typically located in areas which use undocumented workers, low-income workers, paid low wages, low benefits. It also pollutes the area around the animal agriculture plants, so pollutes the water, pollutes the groundwater, the air. So the very communities that are working in these animal agriculture plants, which have lack of benefits usually, lack of health insurance, are also more subject to disease and terrible quality of life, in addition to the fact that it is massively affecting climate change.
So the climate effect impacts the winter and also the summer. The summer are sometimes so hot that the reindeer calves die of the heat. They are not used to this heat. But the winter are the worst, because winter is the most vulnerable time for the reindeer to find food. And we would have managed, even though the icy layers cause the reindeer can't find their food, if we still had the old forests and we still had the land and water that our ancestors had. But I mean, only in, 6 decades, the deforestation has destroyed the reindeer lesion with 70%. And still, the government-owned forest companies are knocking on our door saying that they need more forests in order to be climate effective, and we have to give up even more of our ancestral land. I mean, if my grandfather was alive today, he'd probably cry blood, because it has never been so severe as it is today. Today, the deforestation, among other industries, is taking our land and water in a speed that we have never seen before. So we're struggling to protect our ancestral land because within the surroundings is our identity. This is our life. This is our culture. This is our history, and it's actually our future. But we have so much struggle with protecting today that it's hard to think about what will happen tomorrow. Indigenous people, such as Sami people, my people, we have knowledge for thousands of years on how to use the land without abuse her, because we see ourselves as one with the surroundings. In my home, we don't even talk about nature because it's such a obvious things. If you talk about the nature, you talk about a certain lake. We go to Wolvojauri, we get our water at Atjaurjohka. We let our reindeer graze in Arvas. We catch our fish in Rissajauri. The smallest hill has a name in our tongue. The snow has like 300 different names for different shapes. The reindeer antlers have specific names of each shape. That is how connected you are to the surroundings. I'd say that the most efficient way to protect Mother Earth is to protect her protectors. Stand with indigenous people because we are standing with Earth herself.
Climate change has been brutal for Burundi. Floodwaters have decimated communities, destroying homes. Over 114,000 people have been displaced. Extreme flooding and natural disaster had caused children dropping out of school. Fields where locals used to grow bean and corn have turned into fisheries and breeding grounds, waterborne disease. Young people are so scared and insecure about their future and think the actual efforts are not enough to turn the dark page. In 2018, heavy rains fell in Bujumbura, the capital of Burundi. I lost friends whose bodies were hardly found. From that pain, an activist was born. I joined a youth-led organization, Ishaka 2250, on the climate change program. And this year, we planted 21,421 trees that are reducing 410 tons of CO2 per year. And we engaged youth network and local communities in monthly beach cleanup. I recommend the world to apply the polluter pays principle. I also recommend national and local institutions to strengthen the environmental governance and make natural resources management more efficient to mitigate environmental degradation. To tackle the climate change, Burundi have implemented the National Reforestation Project, Ewe Burundi Rambai. Yes, I hope that the world will unite and make change, because yesterday, world leaders were not ready to listen. Today, they are ready to listen. Tomorrow, I dare believe they will be ready to act.
Hace bastante años, entonces los tribus Wow vivía bien con selva, que estaba bien todo. Ahora viene años y tras años y va cambiando, el cambio climático afecta y entonces estamos viendo ese cambio total de los climas, pero ahora ha cambiado y tenemos un poco miedo. Entonces a nosotros afecta El problema es de lo más en la enfermedad, más el mal salud, esferas desconocidas que nunca hemos enfrentado, porque hoy más que nunca los guaraní piden la resistencia para no hacer cambio climático, cambio de cultura, cambio todo, sino petrolero más causa el problema, más enfrenta, más de la división. Ahora es más tristeza y más pena, porque ahí entran los invasores, ejemplo, los cazadores ilegales, entran los madereros ilegales y les sacan, entre el negocio de ellos. Después, cuando reclamamos nuestros derechos, tal como aplica la ley del pueblo indígena, cuando nosotros decimos, vienen más amenazas. ¿Y qué hacen las amenazas? Las amenazas son que llegan los militares, llegan los policías, y que a pesar que los guaraní tienen escritura, invadieron. A pesar que nosotros decimos que los guaraní vamos a mantener la última cultura viva, ya no vamos a dejar entrarles, ya no vamos a invadirse, no vamos a dejar todo. Nosotros, yo siempre decidí proteger todos los territorios y no destruirlas, porque si protejo, vivo bien. Protejo, todos somos sanos. Protejo, todos estaríamos salvos, porque si no protejo, y todos estaríamos muertos. Yo, lo primero, a mi pueblo. Es la selva, es nuestra casa. Es la selva, es nuestra vida. La selva es nuestra comida, porque con la selva jugamos, con las selvas comimos, las frutas y las comidas, todo tiene aquí, porque la selva. Sin selva no sería nuestra vida. Sin selva estaríamos muertos, porque la selva la protege a nosotros y nosotros estamos protegiendo a la selva. Esto es nuestra vida y por eso lo amamos a nuestra naturaleza.
So you ask me what gives me hope.
What hope looks like?
We don't necessarily champion or talk enough about the actual changes happening to tackle climate change. What's giving you a sense of hope that a cultural shift is taking place?
Everybody, not only young people, they know it's all wrong. They will believe everything I say because they know it already.
Someone doing something. Like Greta Thunberg. She's a beacon of hope. It's the young people that are paying attention, it's the young people that are listening and that actually care.
I do have hope that another world is not only necessary for all of us, but it's actually possible.
I find hope in the young generations. I've been on stage for more than 20 years, and maybe a decade I've been working with the environmental organizations. And the last 5 years I've really seen a change in how the young people among the environmental organizations are listening to us indigenous people.
What gives me hope every single day in every aspect of change for positivity is the way my generation and the generation under me is communicating right now.
Next generation is coming through and they really care and they're really switched on.
The problem is capitalism. And if you start to know that, you will start to understand the world because you will see everything in that context and you'll start to put the pieces together.
Hope is that strength that keeps you moving, that keeps you imagining that kind of future that we all want.
That togetherness is is the solution. To listen, to respect one another in order to respect our mutual home.
I think the fact that people are talking about it and mobilizing is something that, you know, I couldn't have dreamed of when I was younger.
Y que el mundo, mi esperanza es que se una o que se unamos todos para poderte.
I genuinely believe every single one of you out there has a voice. Use that voice for good. Use that voice for love. Use that voice to spread awareness.
Now everywhere I go, I'm surrounded by people who give a damn. And that to me is really inspiring.
Y ya es hora que podemos unirnos, luchar por la naturaleza y vivir bien.
If I didn't have hope, then I would have no reason to continue fighting. So I believe that a beautiful and sustainable future is possible for all of us.
The only thing we have to do absolutely is we have to halt climate change.
None of us is perfect. There is always so much more we could be doing. But the little things we do matter.
I'll just stop there.
Mic drop!
I have hope.
I have hope.
We are BR, who did the VFX for Overheated. We have been staying in Kiev throughout the war, and we're not intending on moving. From here, and all of us, we want to say, we have hope.